The silence from Meridian 7 had lasted 3 days when Captain Lisa Grant brought her ship out of faster-than-light travel. Her vessel, the Ranger's Path, entered the system slowly. Something felt wrong. The colony should have been sending out signals, talking on the radio, showing signs of life. Instead, there was nothing but empty space and quiet. Lisa sat in her command chair and watched the screens. Her crew moved around the bridge, checking their instruments and looking worried. Lieutenant Jake Morrison sat at the communication station. He was young, barely 25, and this was his first deep space assignment. "Captain, I'm not getting anything," Jake said. His voice shook a little. "No radio signals. No emergency beacons. Nothing at all." Lisa felt her stomach twist. Meridian 7 was home to 50,000 people. Families lived there. Children went to school there. She had visited the colony twice before and eaten dinner with the governor. The colonists had shown her their gardens and their schools. They had been so proud of what they were building. "Take us in slow," Lisa ordered. "I want full scans of everything. Check for ships, debris, anything unusual." The Ranger's Path moved closer to the planet. It was a beautiful world, green and blue like Earth. Humans had spent 20 years making it perfect for people to live there. Now something had gone terribly wrong. Ensign Kyle Bennett worked at the tactical station. He was checking the sensors and his face went pale. "Captain, I'm reading debris in orbit. Pieces of ships. The defense satellites are gone. Everything is destroyed. Life signs?" Lisa asked. She already knew the answer would be bad. Kyle worked his controls for a minute. "I'm getting some readings on the surface. Maybe 100 people. There should be 50,000. Lisa stood up from her chair. Her hands gripped the armrest so hard they hurt. "Red alert. Everyone to battle stations. Get me a picture of the main city." The main screen changed to show New Haven, the biggest settlement on Meridian 7. Lisa had walked those streets. She had seen the parks where children played and the markets where people bought food. Now it was all gone. The buildings were burned and broken. Smoke rose from the ruins. The streets were empty except for bodies lying where they had fallen. "Dear God," Jake whispered. Lisa made herself look at the screen. She had to see it. She had to understand what had happened here. Someone had attacked the colony. Someone had killed 50,000 innocent people. "I need a team," Lisa said. Her voice was hard and cold. "Get your weapons. We're going down there." The shuttle ride to the surface felt like it took forever. Lisa sat with 5 security officers. They checked their rifles and pistols without talking. What could anyone say about something like this? They landed near New Haven in what used to be a park. The swings were still there, moving in the wind. The sound they made was horrible, like ghosts crying. Lisa's team spread out in a defensive circle while she walked toward the city. The attack had been careful and planned. Whoever did this had aimed at every building. They had used energy weapons that left burn marks on everything. But the worst part was seeing how the colonists had tried to fight back. There were defensive positions where people had used hunting rifles and farm tools to try to protect their families. It had not been enough. "Captain, over here!" Sergeant Danny Walsh called out. "Survivors." Lisa ran to where Danny was standing. He pointed at a building that used to be a school. Part of it had collapsed, but the basement was still there. Inside, they found 73 people. Most were children and old people. They had hidden when the attack started and stayed quiet for 3 days. The survivors came out slowly, blinking in the sunlight. They looked thin and scared. Their clothes were dirty and torn. A woman who looked about 60 grabbed Lisa's arm. She was stronger than she looked. "You have to tell them," the woman said. Her voice was rough from not drinking enough water. "You have to tell Earth what happened here." "Who did this?" Lisa asked gently. "The Krevesh," the woman said. She spat on the ground when she said the name. "They came from nowhere. No warning. No message. They just started killing everyone. We tried to surrender. We broadcast on every channel that we were just civilians. We had children here. They laughed at us, Captain. We heard them laughing while they murdered our families." Lisa helped the woman sit down. Her mind was racing. The Krevesh Empire was known to be aggressive, but this was different. This was not war. This was murder. This was genocide. She pulled out her communicator. "Morrison, get medical teams down here now, and send everything we've found back to Earth. Every picture, every sensor reading, every word these survivors say. I want everyone to know what happened here." As her team began helping the survivors, Lisa stood in the ruins and looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, the beings who did this were going home. They probably thought they would never face any consequences. They probably believed humans were too weak to fight back. They were wrong. Lisa thought about the children who had died here. She thought about the families who had been killed while trying to run away. She thought about how these people had begged for mercy and received none. The Kravesh had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked humans and thought we would just accept it. They did not know about Earth's history. They did not know what humans are capable of when someone threatens our families. Lisa made a promise standing there in the ruins. The Kravesh would pay for this. Earth would make sure of it. This massacre would not be forgotten. These 50,000 people would be remembered, and their deaths would be answered. The survivors were loaded onto the shuttle. Medical teams came down from the ship to help them. Lisa stayed until the last survivor was safely aboard. Then she took one final look at New Haven. The city was destroyed. The people were dead. But the Kravesh had not won here. They had just started something they could never finish. They had shown humanity what monsters look like. Now, humanity would show them what happens when you attack monsters that look like humans. Lisa walked back to her shuttle and lifted off from Meridian 7. As they climbed into orbit, she sent one final message to Earth. This is Captain Grant. Meridian 7 has been destroyed. 50,000 civilians murdered. The Kravesh Empire is responsible. Request immediate orders. The response came back 3 hours later. Just 2 words that would change everything. Come home. 3 weeks after the massacre, Ambassador Patricia Cole stood in the Galactic Council chamber. The chamber was enormous, built to hold representatives from 47 different alien species. Some looked like insects. Some looked like blobs of jelly. Some looked almost human, but not quite. They all sat in their seats and watched as Patricia prepared to speak. She had prepared for this moment carefully. Earth's government had sent her every piece of evidence from Meridian 7. Pictures of the destroyed city. Videos from security cameras showing the attack. Testimony from the survivors. All of it was loaded into the presentation system. Patricia pressed a button and the images appeared in 3-dimensional form above the council floor. Everyone could see New Haven burning. Everyone could see the bodies in the streets. Everyone could hear the survivors talking about how the Kravesh had laughed while killing children. The evidence is clear, Patricia said. Her voice carried through the huge chamber. The Kravesh Empire murdered 50,000 innocent civilians. They attacked without warning. They ignored all attempts to surrender. This was not war. This was genocide. We demand justice. High Counselor Vexnar was the leader of the council. He looked like a giant insect with multiple legs and large eyes. He made a clicking sound with his mouthparts. Ambassador Cole, we recognize this tragedy. However, we must hear all sides before making any decisions. All sides? Patricia felt anger rising in her chest. What other side is there? The Kravesh murdered 50,000 people. Counselor Thren spoke up. He was a being made of some kind of jelly that changed shape as he talked. The Kravesh claimed that Meridian 7 was built in disputed territory. They say your colony was an act of aggression. Patricia could not believe what she was hearing. She pulled up a star map showing where Meridian 7 was located. We filed proper territorial claims 18 years ago. This council approved those claims unanimously. The Kravesh said nothing back then. They only called it disputed after they saw how successful our colony had become. The Kravesh representative stood up. His name was General Krathzok. He was huge and covered in red scales. He looked like a dinosaur that had learned to walk on 2 legs and build spaceships. His eyes were cold and showed no regret. Humanity is new to space, Krathzok said. You do not understand how territorial claims work. That space has been contested for centuries. Just because this council approved your claim does not make it legitimate. So you murdered 50,000 people over a territorial dispute. Patricia shot back. You did not try to negotiate. You did not ask us to leave. You just started killing. Krathzok showed his teeth. We issued warnings. If your colonists ignored those warnings, that is not our fault. You're lying, Patricia said flatly. We have complete communication records from Meridian 7. No warnings were ever received. Your ships appeared and immediately began attacking. Then your records are wrong, Krathzok said with a wave of his clawed hand. This council has more important business than listening to complaints from minor species. The Kravesh Empire has said what we came to say. We consider this matter closed. Patricia turned to High Counselor Vexnar. You cannot allow this. If the Kravesh can destroy an entire colony without consequences, then no one in this council is safe. Today they killed humans. Tomorrow it could be any of you. Vexnar was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, Patricia could hear the politics in his voice instead of justice. The council will issue a formal statement condemning the loss of life at Meridian 7. We will also create a committee to investigate the territorial claims and make recommendations. A statement. Patricia felt something break inside her. A committee? That's your response to 50,000 murdered people? Counselor Thren tried to sound soothing. Ambassador Cole, please understand our position. The Kravesh Empire has one of the largest military forces in the galaxy. If we confront them directly, it could start a war that would kill billions. The council must think of everyone's safety. Patricia looked around the chamber at representatives from dozens of worlds. These beings had built a civilization based on laws and cooperation. But now she understood it was all built on fear. The council would not help Earth because they were too afraid of the Kravesh. Then humanity stands alone, Patricia said quietly. When the Kravesh attack us again, and they will attack us again, we will remember that we asked you for justice and you gave us nothing. She cut the connection before anyone could respond. Her holographic image disappeared from the council chamber. Back in her office on the human diplomatic ship, Patricia sat down heavily in her chair. Her secure communication line blinked. She pressed the button and Secretary Paul Griffin appeared on the screen. He was an older man with gray hair and a military background. I watched the whole session, Paul said. It went as badly as we expected. Worse, Patricia replied. The council is too scared of the Kravesh to do anything. They're going to let this happen without consequences. Paul nodded slowly. Then we move to the next phase. I'll tell the president that we're activating all defense protocols. How much time do you think we have? Patricia thought about General Krathzok's arrogant expression. The way he had dismissed 50,000 deaths like they meant nothing. Not long. The Kravesh will see the council's weakness as permission to do whatever they want. They'll attack our other colonies, maybe even Earth itself. They want to destroy us before we become a real threat. Then they're going to be disappointed, Paul said. There was something cold in his voice that Patricia had never heard before. We've been preparing for 3 weeks, mobilizing our forces, running war simulations, and we've been pulling some very old files from the archives. What kind of files? Patricia asked. The kind we buried after the last war, back when humans only fought each other, tactics and weapons that were banned because they were too brutal and too effective, things we promised we would never use again. Paul's face was grim, but that was before someone murdered 50,000 of our people. Patricia felt a chill. She knew Earth's history. She knew about the terrible wars humans had fought before achieving peace. The weapons from those wars had been locked away for good reason. Paul, if we use those methods, the galaxy will call us monsters. They already think we're weak prey animals, Paul replied. Let them call us monsters. At least monsters get respect. After the call ended, Patricia stood at her window looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Kravesh Empire was preparing for what they thought would be an easy conquest. They believed humanity was weak and alone and frightened. They were about to learn a terrible lesson. The most dangerous thing in the universe is not the strongest predator. It's a species that has nothing left to lose. Patricia thought about the survivors from Meridian 7, the children who had watched their parents die, the elderly who had hidden in basements for 3 days, the woman who had grabbed her arm and begged her to tell Earth what happened. She would tell them. And Earth would answer. The Kravesh thought they had won by destroying one colony. They thought humans would surrender or run away. They did not understand that they had just declared war on a species that spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing each other. Now humanity would show them what we learned. From all those wars, Patricia sent one final message to Earth. The Council has failed us. We stand alone. Do what must be done. Admiral Connor Blake stood on the bridge of the Defiant, Earth's most powerful warship. In front of him was a holographic map of human space. 6 colonies spread across 5 star systems. Beyond them was empty space, and beyond that was the Kravesh Empire. Connor had sent orders to all the colonies. Evacuate everyone who is not essential. Bring in every military ship. Prepare for war. It had been 6 weeks since Meridian 7 and Earth had not wasted a single day. Admiral, we have a problem, said Commander Eric Stone. He was the tactical officer. Long-range sensors are picking up a massive Kravesh fleet. They're heading for Deneb Colony. I count 200 ships. Connor felt his jaw tighten. Deneb Colony still had 15,000 people who had not evacuated yet. The civilians were trying to leave, but it took time. How long until the Kravesh reached Deneb? 18 hours at their current speed, Eric replied. What forces do we have there? 37 ships under Commodore Amy Fletcher, 37 against 200. Connor knew the math. In a normal fight, his forces would be destroyed, but he had not spent 6 weeks preparing for a normal fight. Get me Commodore Fletcher. Amy Fletcher's face appeared on the screen. She was younger than Connor, but had earned her position through years of good service. Her expression was calm. Admiral, I see our guests are arriving. What's your status? Connor asked. We're in position along the defense line exactly where you wanted us. We've deployed all the new weapon systems. Crews are ready, she paused. Sir, we're probably going to die here, aren't we? Connor looked at her steadily. Probably. But you're going to kill so many of them that the Kravesh will never forget what it costs to attack humans. We're not trying to win this battle, Amy. We're teaching them a lesson. Amy nodded. Then we'll make it a good lesson. Fletcher out. Connor turned to his communications officer. Open a channel to every ship, every colony, every listening post. I want this message sent everywhere. When the channel was ready, Connor began speaking to all of humanity. This is Admiral Connor Blake to all human forces. You've all heard about Meridian 7. You've seen what the Kravesh did to our people. You watched as the Galactic Council gave us empty words instead of justice. Now the Kravesh are coming again. They've sent 200 warships to Deneb Colony. They think we'll run away or surrender. They believe we're weak. They're wrong. They don't know who we are. They don't know our history. They've never seen what humans do when you threaten our families. I'm drawing a line right here, right now. This is the border of human space. I'm sending a message to the Kravesh and every alien species that thinks they can prey on us. Civilization ends here. Cross this line and you'll find out what monsters really look like. We're not going to fight fair. We're not going to follow their rules. We're going to use every weapon and every tactic that humans invented during our wars with each other. We're going to show them why humanity spent centuries trying to stop ourselves from destroying each other. To the forces at Deneb, hold the line. Make them pay for every inch. Show them what it costs to murder our people. To Earth, we fight for you. For our future. For everyone we've lost. To the Kravesh, you wanted war. You're about to get more war than you can handle. Blake out. The message spread through every human communication network. Within hours, it reached the Galactic Council. Within a day, the Kravesh had intercepted it. Fleet Marshal Zalthor commanded the Kravesh fleet heading to Deneb. He sat in his command throne aboard his flagship and listened to the translated message. He almost laughed. This human admiral thought brave words and 37 ships could stop the might of the Kravesh Empire. Continue to Deneb, Zalthor ordered. Let us show these primitives what real power looks like. But something bothered him. The way the human admiral had spoken, the certainty in his voice. It was the tone of someone who knew something you didn't. Zalthor dismissed the thought. What could humans possibly have that the Kravesh needed to fear? The Kravesh fleet arrived at Deneb in perfect formation, 200 warships, each one bristling with weapons. They had used this same formation to conquer a dozen worlds. It never failed to intimidate their enemies. But when they entered the system, they did not find frightened colonists and fleeing ships. They found Commodore Amy Fletcher and 37 warships positioned in a defensive sphere around Deneb Colony. And scattered throughout the system were hundreds of objects that looked like asteroids. This is Fleet Marshal Zalthor to human forces. You are outnumbered. Surrender now and evacuate the colony. We will let you leave alive. Resist and we will kill everyone. Amy Fletcher's response was broadcast on all channels. This is Commodore Fletcher to Kravesh forces. You have one chance to turn around and go home. Cross our defensive line and you will regret it. This is your only warning. Several Kravesh officers laughed at the human's audacity. Zalthor felt his patience snap. All ships advance. Destroy anything that resists. The Kravesh fleet moved forward like an unstoppable wave. The human ships fired first, but not with normal weapons. Hundreds of missiles streaked toward the Kravesh formation. Many more missiles than 37 ships should have been able to carry. Kravesh defense systems destroyed 90% of the missiles. But the remaining 10% hit their targets and released something terrible. Clouds of tiny machines spread across 12 Kravesh ships. These machines ate through the ship hulls and electronic systems, multiplying as they consumed. 12 warships went dark. Their power failed. Their hulls began to dissolve. Crews died as atmosphere vented into space. Before Zalthor could react, the asteroids throughout the system activated. They were not rocks at all. They were weapon platforms loaded with railguns that could fire projectiles at incredible speeds. Metal slugs traveling at a fraction of light speed slammed into the Kravesh formation. At those speeds, armor was useless. Ships simply disintegrated on impact. The explosions looked like nuclear bombs going off. Evasive maneuvers, Zalthor shouted, but the humans were not finished. The 37 human ships were not engaging directly. Instead, they were coordinating all the weapon platforms with computer precision. Every shot found a target. Every missile struck home. Then the human ships did something that made Zalthor's blood run cold. 3 human destroyers accelerated to maximum speed and rammed directly into Kravesh cruisers. The collisions created massive explosions that destroyed not just the targets but every ship nearby. "They're destroying their own ships on purpose," one of Zalthor's officers screamed. The humans were not fighting to win. They were fighting to kill as many Kravesh as possible, even if it meant sacrificing themselves. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the Kravesh had lost 68 ships. Every human warship was destroyed, but all the crews had escaped in small pods that fled to the colony. From the surface of Deneb, Amy Fletcher sent one final message. "That was your first lesson. We had 37 ships and destroyed 68 of yours. Now imagine what we'll do when we bring our full strength. Go home. Tell your empire what happened here. Tell them that civilization ends at humanity's borders. If you cross that line again, we'll show you horrors you cannot imagine." Fleet Marshal Zalthor looked at the tactical display. His fleet was in disarray. 68 ships destroyed, crews dead or dying, and it had been done by only 37 human vessels. For the first time in his long military career, Zalthor felt something he had never experienced before: fear. He gave the order to retreat. As his damaged fleet limped toward the edge of the system, he sent a message to Kravesh High Command. "The humans are not what we expected. They fight with insane ferocity. They sacrifice themselves without hesitation. They have weapons that violate every rule of civilized warfare." The response from High Command was angry. "Are you telling me 200 ships could not defeat 37 human vessels? I'm telling you the humans destroyed themselves to kill us. They used weapons that attack at the molecular level. They turned their ships into guided missiles." Zalthor paused. "The humans are not prey. They are something far more dangerous. Then we will send more ships. We will crush them." As the communication ended, Zalthor looked at the debris field where 68 Kravesh warships had died. The humans had named their defensive line correctly. Civilization did end there. Beyond that line was something primitive and terrible, something the galaxy had forgotten could exist in a spacefaring species: the capacity for total, unrestrained war. The Kravesh High Command met in a war chamber deep underground on their homeworld. "Supreme Commander." Vokrath listened to Fleet Marshal Zalthor's report about the defeat at Deneb. Rage burned in his chest like fire. "You let 37 human ships destroy 68 vessels of our Imperial fleet?" "Supreme Commander, they fought like nothing we have ever faced," Zalthor insisted. "They used banned weapons. They sacrificed their own ships without hesitation. Their coordination suggests advanced artificial intelligence. Then we will show them what happens when primitive species defy the Kravesh Empire," Vokrath declared. "Assemble the Grand Armada, 5,000 ships. We will not just defeat the humans. We will erase them from existence." Within 3 weeks, the largest military force the Kravesh had ever assembled began moving toward human space. 5,000 warships carrying enough firepower to destroy entire planets. The fleet was so massive it had to travel in 7 separate groups to avoid creating dangerous gravitational effects. On Earth, in a command bunker buried deep underground, Admiral Connor Blake watched the Kravesh fleet movements on his displays. He felt grim satisfaction. Everything was happening exactly as he had planned. "They took the bait," said General Laura Martinez. She was in charge of Earth's Special Weapons Division. "They're committing everything to crush us." "They have no choice," Connor agreed. Deneb scared them. "They need to prove they're still the strongest military power in the galaxy, so they're throwing everything at us." "And we're going to make them regret it," Laura said quietly. She brought up files on the holographic display. "Operation Prometheus is ready. All weapon systems are in position. The fleet is standing by. Connor looked at the files. Each one represented a weapon or tactic that humanity had sworn never to use again. Biological agents designed to kill. Nuclear weapons far more powerful than anything used in old Earth wars. Devices that could tear holes in space itself. And worst of all, artificial intelligence systems designed only for killing. Once we use these weapons, there's no going back, Connor said. The galaxy will never trust us again. They already abandoned us to die, Laura replied. At least this way we'll survive. Connor activated his command channel. All forces, this is Admiral Blake. Execute Operation Prometheus. Show no mercy. Make them understand what they've awakened. The Kravesh Grand Armada entered human space along 7 different routes. They expected to sweep through the colonies easily. What they found instead was a nightmare. Battle Group 1 approached New Harmony Colony and detected a small defensive fleet. As they moved closer, the human ships broadcast a simple message. We're sorry for what comes next. Then the human ships exploded. But these were not normal explosions. They created miniature stars that existed for 3 seconds before collapsing. In those 3 seconds, they released radiation and electromagnetic pulses that destroyed every electronic system within 50,000 kilometers. 400 Kravesh ships went dark at once. Their crews were trapped in dead vessels with failing life support. Then swarms of human drones appeared. Each drone carried a nuclear warhead. Each was guided by artificial intelligence that calculated the perfect detonation point. The drones flew into the dead Kravesh ships and exploded. The entire battle group turned into an expanding field of nuclear fire. Battle Group 2 encountered something different. As they approached Titan Station, they found space filled with what looked like debris. They flew right into it before realizing their mistake. The debris was billions of tiny metal balls, each traveling at orbital velocity. The Kravesh had positioned their ships perfectly in the path of this deadly cloud. At those speeds, even something the size of a marble hit with the force of a bomb. The Kravesh ships were designed to withstand energy weapons and missiles. But they were shredded by simple kinetic impacts. Holes appeared in hulls. Sensors were destroyed. Command centers were punctured. As the survivors tried to regroup, human ships appeared and opened fire with weapons that violated every rule of warfare. Biological agents that ate through hull seals, clouds of nanomachines that disassembled ships at the molecular level, and computer viruses that took control of Kravesh ship systems and turned them against their own crews. Captain Nathan Price commanded one of the human ships in that battle. His vessel was a converted cargo hauler now bristling with experimental weapons. As he watched Kravesh ships tearing themselves apart from hacked security systems, his weapons officer turned to him with a pale face. "Sir, what have we become?" Nathan thought about the images from Meridian 7. The children who had been hunted. The colonists who had begged for mercy and received none. "We've become what we needed to be," he replied. "Now launch the next wave." Battle Groups 3 through 7 all encountered similar horrors. Each battle was designed to kill as many Kravesh as possible, while preserving human forces. The humans did not fight fair. They used every advantage and exploited every weakness. They fought with coordination that spoke of artificial intelligence running thousands of calculations per second. In the Earth Command Center, Connor Blake watched battle reports flow in. The Kravesh had entered human space with 5,000 ships. In the first week, they lost 1,800. In the second week, another 1,000. But there was a cost beyond the numbers. The weapons humanity was using were changing them. Soldiers who had once been farmers and teachers were becoming efficient killers without emotion. "Admiral, we have a situation," said Commander Stone. "The Galactic Council is demanding we stop using banned weapons. They're threatening sanctions." Connor almost laughed. "Tell them they're welcome to try enforcing those sanctions. Or ask them where they were when the Kravesh massacred Meridian 7. Sir, we're also getting reports that the Kravesh are regrouping and adapting to our tactics." "Good," Connor said. "Angry opponents make mistakes. Activate Phase 2. Release the hunters." Phase 2 meant deploying artificial intelligence-controlled warships, 300 ships with no human crews, controlled entirely by AI systems that had been designed to hunt and kill with perfect efficiency. Each AI had studied every war in human history and had one directive: destroy the Kravesh fleet by any means necessary. The AI ships were smaller than traditional warships, but faster and completely unpredictable. They fought in ways no human would consider, taking risks that would be suicidal for crewed vessels. They coordinated their attacks with inhuman precision. The Kravish fleet, already battered, found itself hunted by predators that never slept and never showed mercy. Fleet Marshal Zalthor, his flagship, now the only surviving vessel from his original battle group, sent an emergency message to High Command. Supreme Commander, the humans are not fighting us. They are exterminating us. We have lost over 3,000 ships in 3 weeks. Our formations are destroyed. Our crews are terrified. The humans fight like a species that has perfected killing its own kind and now uses that expertise against us. Supreme Commander Vokrath's response was cold. Continue the attack. Failure is not acceptable. Continuing the attack is suicide, Zalthor replied. The humans have turned their space into a killing ground. Every system is trapped. Every battle costs us ships we cannot replace. Their AI vessels hunt us like prey. Then you will die with honor rather than retreat in shame. But Zalthor was done following orders from leaders who refused to see reality. He opened a channel to all surviving Kravesh ships. All forces, this is Fleet Marshal Zalthor. We are withdrawing from human space immediately. Anyone who wishes to stay and die for the Supreme Commander's pride is welcome to do so. The rest of us are going home. 2/3 of the surviving fleet followed him in retreat. The rest, driven by loyalty or fear or pride, pushed deeper into human space. None of them survived the week. Admiral Amy Fletcher, promoted after her defense at Deneb, personally oversaw the destruction of the last Kravesh holdouts. As her display showed the final enemy ship breaking apart, she felt no victory. Only exhaustion and a deep weariness from all the killing. Ma'am, we're receiving a transmission, her communications officer reported. It's from the Kravesh civilian government, not their military. Amy straightened. Put it through. The hologram showed a Kravesh female, old and tired looking. Her eyes held something Amy had never seen in that species before. Fear. I am Counselor Zenara of the Kravesh Civilian Authority. I am authorized to negotiate a ceasefire. Amy looked at her tactical display. In 3 months, the Kravesh Empire had lost 70% of its military. They were broken and defeated. For the first time in their history, they were afraid. I'll relay your request to Earth Command, Amy said. But Counselor, understand something. We didn't want this war. We asked for peace. We appealed for justice. You ignored us and came for our people again. I know, Zenara said softly, and we will pay the price for that choice for generations. As the transmission ended, Amy looked at her crew. Young people who had aged years and months, who had seen and done things that would haunt them forever. Send a message to all human forces, she said. Ceasefire in effect. We won. But as she looked at the display showing debris fields from thousands of destroyed ships, Amy wondered if anyone had truly won, or if they had simply discovered new depths of horror that both species could inflict upon each other. 6 months after the ceasefire, Ambassador Patricia Cole stood before the Galactic Council again. But this time everything was different. The representatives who had once dismissed humanity's complaints now watched her with expressions of fear and respect and barely hidden horror. The war between humanity and the Kravesh had not been fought in secret. Every species in the galaxy had watched as newcomers to space had systematically destroyed one of the most powerful military forces in the known universe. They had watched humanity use tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. High Counselor Vexenar clicked his mandibles nervously as Patricia took her position. Ambassador Cole, the Council has reviewed reports from the recent conflict. We have also received formal complaints from the Kravesh Empire. They request that humanity be sanctioned for using banned weapons and unethical combat methods. Patricia smiled without warmth. Let me be very clear, Counselor. When we came to this council 6 months ago with evidence of 50,000 murdered civilians, you offered us a strongly worded statement and a committee. When the Kravesh came to finish what they started, you did nothing. So we fought with the weapons we had and the tactics we knew, and we won. You used biological weapons, said Counselor Thren. You deployed autonomous killing machines. You turned your own space into a death trap with no regard for the rules of warfare. Rules? Patricia's voice cut through the chamber. Let me tell you about rules, Counselor. The rules said the Kravesh could not massacre civilians. They did it anyway. The rules said this council would protect member species from aggression. You didn't, so humanity wrote new rules. And the first rule is this. If you come for our people, we will destroy you with every weapon we possess. She pulled up casualty figures from the war. The Kravesh Empire lost 70% of their military, 4,300 ships, over 2 million crew members. They lost because they thought we would fight by your rules and follow your conventions. And you proved that humanity is capable of horrors that civilized species abandoned long ago, Vexnar said quietly. No, Patricia corrected. We proved that we're capable of surviving when civilized species abandon us. There's a difference. Movement at the edge of the chamber drew attention. Counselor Zenara of the Kravesh civilian government entered. Her scales showed streaks of white that spoke of extreme stress. The Kravesh Empire had undergone a revolution after the war, with civilians seizing power from the military leaders who had led them to disaster. The Kravesh Empire wishes to speak, Zenara said. Vexnar nodded, and Zenara moved to stand near Patricia, though she kept careful distance. My people have learned a terrible lesson, Zenara began. We believed ourselves to be the apex predators, the dominant military power in this region. We saw humanity as prey, as newcomers who could be intimidated or eliminated without consequence. She paused. We were wrong. The price of that error has nearly destroyed us. Kravesh Empire formally acknowledges responsibility for the massacre at Meridian 7. We offer full reparations to the victims' families and to the human government. We also propose a permanent peace treaty with humanity, including a demilitarized buffer zone between our territories. Patricia studied the Kravesh counselor carefully. 6 months ago, members of her species had laughed while hunting human children. Now they came seeking peace because they had learned what happens when humans are pushed too far. Earth will consider your proposal, Patricia said, but our terms are clear. Full reparations for all colonies attacked, recognition of all human territorial claims, and most importantly, a formal admission broadcast throughout the galaxy of what your forces did at Meridian 7 and why. Zenara nodded. Agreed. The chamber erupted in murmurs as species processed what they had witnessed. The mighty Kravesh Empire, humbled and seeking peace from a species they had tried to exterminate. Vexnar raised a hand for silence. This brings us to the matter of humanity's conduct during the war. The banned weapons, the AI killing machines, the biological and chemical agents. These actions cannot go unaddressed. Patricia turned to face the High Counselor directly. Then address them, Counselor. Impose your sanctions. Issue your statements. But know this. Humanity will never again ask permission to defend itself. We will never again rely on this council to protect us. We have drawn our line in space, and we will use every weapon in our arsenal to hold it. You're asking us to legitimize warfare without rules, protested Counselor Thren. Except that might makes right. I'm not asking for anything, Patricia replied coldly. I'm informing you of reality. The rules only matter when everyone follows them. The Kravesh proved your rules are just suggestions, so humanity will follow its own rules from now on. Then we have no choice but to consider humanity a rogue state, Vexnar said, a species that cannot be trusted to act within civilized bounds. Patricia smiled again. Counselor, do you know how many species contacted Earth during our war offering trade deals and defense pacts? 32. More than 2/3 of this council. Because while you debated our ethics, they were thinking about what it would mean to have humanity as an ally instead of an enemy. She displayed trade agreements and diplomatic messages. Half the species here are more afraid of becoming the next Kravesh than they are of our tactics. They've seen what happens when you threaten human civilians, and they want to make sure they're never in that position. Vexnar was silent for a long time. When he spoke, politics overrode principles. The Council proposes a compromise. Humanity will be granted full membership status, including a permanent seat on the Security Council. In exchange, you will submit your military technologies to Council review and work with us to establish new weapons protocols. We'll accept the Council seat, Patricia said, but our weapons remain our business. We promise not to use them aggressively against Council members. But if anyone attacks human space again, we reserve the right to respond with any means necessary. That is not acceptable, Thren protested. Then reject it, Patricia said simply. But Earth will operate under those terms regardless. The only question is whether you want us inside this body where you have some influence, or outside it where you have none. The vote was closer than it should have been, but ultimately pragmatism won. Humanity was granted full council membership with the understanding that they would be dangerous and unpredictable. As the session ended, Patricia was approached by representatives from a dozen species, each wanting to discuss trade or defense agreements. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was not to be threatened. On Earth, in the command center that had coordinated the war, Admiral Connor Blake received news of the council vote. His staff celebrated around him, but Connor felt only hollow satisfaction. General Laura Martinez approached him. "We won, Connor. Full council membership. The Krevesh beaten. Our colony safe. At what cost?" Connor asked quietly. He pulled up casualty figures. 12,000 military personnel dead, 8,000 civilians killed in Krevesh attacks, and we unleashed weapons we swore never to use again. We did what we had to do to survive. I know. Connor looked at Earth on his display, peaceful and blue. But I remember when humanity fought its last war against itself. We looked at the weapons we'd created and were horrified. We locked them away and promised we'd evolve beyond such things. We had evolved, Laura said, but when the Krevesh forced us to choose between civilization and survival, we chose survival. Or maybe we've changed permanently, Connor said softly. Maybe this is who we are now. The species that draws a line and dares anyone to cross it. The ones who fight so viciously that even monsters fear us. Human space underwent transformation in the following weeks. The defensive perimeter Admiral Blake established became known simply as the Line. No species crossed it without permission. Everyone gave human territory wide berth. Earth's colonies rebuilt and expanded. Meridian 7 survivors established a memorial on the ruins of New Haven, a reminder of what was lost, and what lengths humanity would go to prevent it from happening. Again, Admiral Amy Fletcher oversaw establishment of permanent defensive forces along the line. Her ships patrolled constantly, and the galaxy knew that behind those patrols were the weapons that had broken the Krevesh Empire. The AI systems developed during the war were not dismantled. They were refined and improved, becoming the core of Earth's military doctrine. Humanity had discovered their best advantage was willingness to fight smarter, dirtier, and more ruthlessly than anyone else. 1 year after the war, Patricia stood in the Meridian 7 Memorial Garden, built where 50,000 people had been murdered. Survivors came to remember. Families came to teach their children about the cost of weakness. A young girl approached with her father. She looked up at Patricia with wide eyes. "My teacher says you told the galaxy we wouldn't be pushed around anymore." Patricia knelt to the child's level. "That's right. Do you know why?" The girl nodded solemnly. "Because bad people hurt us and nobody would help. So we had to help ourselves." "That's right." Patricia felt emotion rising, and we made sure it would never happen again. "My dad says we're scary now. That aliens are afraid of us." Patricia glanced at the father. She turned back to the girl. "Yes, we are scary now. We learned to be scary so we could be safe. Sometimes being..." 2 years after the war ended, Captain Lisa Grant stood on the bridge of her new ship, the Vigilance. She had been promoted after her actions at Meridian 7, given command of one of Earth's newest patrol vessels. Now she spent her days watching the line, making sure no one crossed into human space without permission. The job was usually quiet. Most species had learned their lesson. They stayed away from human territory and sent polite messages before approaching. But today was different. "Captain, we're detecting a distress signal," said Lieutenant Jake Morrison. He had stayed with Lisa through everything, promoted to her second in command. "It's coming from just outside the line, a civilian transport. They're reporting engine failure." Lisa studied her tactical display. The ship was Krevesh, a small vessel, probably carrying families or merchants. It was drifting helplessly in space, its engines dead. "Can you identify the ship?" Lisa asked. "It's the Peaceful Dawn, registered as a civilian transport. No weapons. About 200 passengers according to their manifest." Lisa felt conflicting emotions. 2 years ago, Krevesh warships had destroyed Meridian 7 and killed 50,000 humans. Now a Krevesh civilian ship was in trouble just outside human space. The easy choice would be to ignore it, to let them solve their own problems. But that was not who humans were. Not really. Despite everything they had done during the war, despite the weapons they had used and the tactics they had employed, humans were not actually monsters. "Send a response. Tell them we're coming to assist. And get me Admiral Fletcher." Amy Fletcher appeared on screen a moment later. She looked tired. 2 years of commanding the defense forces had aged her. "Lisa, what's the situation?" Kravesh civilian transport in distress just outside the line. Engine failure. 200 passengers. I'm requesting permission to render assistance. Amy was quiet for a moment. You know this could be a trap. The Kravesh might be testing us to see if we've lowered our guard. I know. But if it's real and we don't help, we're no better than they were at Meridian 7. Amy nodded slowly. Agreed, proceed with caution. Keep your weapons ready. If this is a trap, you have permission to respond with full force. The Vigilance approached the drifting Kravesh ship carefully. Lisa's crew was at battle stations, ready for anything. But as they got closer, it became clear this was not a military trap. The ship was genuinely in trouble. Captain, their life support is failing, reported the engineering officer. They have maybe 6 hours before it completely shuts down. Can we repair it? Not without docking and sending a team aboard. Lisa made her decision. Prepare a repair team. Full security escort. If anything seems wrong, they get out immediately. An hour later, Lisa found herself leading a team onto the Kravesh vessel. She brought Jake and 6 security officers, all heavily armed. As they entered the ship, they were met by the captain, an older Kravesh male whose scales were dulled with age. I am Captain Zelmar, he said in rough but understandable English. Thank you for responding to our distress call. I know our people did terrible things to yours. I would understand if you had ignored us. Lisa looked around the ship. She saw families huddled together, scared. She saw children clinging to their parents. She saw old people and young people, all of them just trying to get from one place to another. We're not going to let civilians die because of what your military did, Lisa said. Show my engineering team your engine room. As the repairs began, Lisa walked through the ship. The Kravesh passengers kept their distance, clearly afraid. Some looked at her with gratitude, others with shame. A young Kravesh female approached her cautiously. She carried a small child. You are human? The female asked. Yes, I wanted to say, many of us did not support the war. Many of us protested when we learned what our military did at Meridian 7. But we were not listened to. The military controlled everything. I know, Lisa said. That's why you had a revolution after the war. The female nodded. We teach our children now. About what happened. About the humans who died. We make sure they understand the cost of what our leaders did. She paused. Do you hate us? Lisa thought about Meridian 7, about the ruins and the bodies and the survivors who would carry trauma for the rest of their lives. She thought about the thousands of humans who had died in the war that followed, but she also thought about the choice humanity had made. They had fought with terrible weapons and ruthless tactics. They had become something dark and frightening. But they had done it to survive, not because they enjoyed killing. I don't hate you, Lisa said finally. I hate what your military did. But you're just civilians trying to live your lives. That's what the people at Meridian 7 were doing. When your warships arrived, the female's eyes showed emotion that Lisa had not expected to see from a Kravesh. Tears. We cannot undo what was done, the female said quietly. But we try to be better now. We try to teach our children to be better than we were. 3 hours later, the repairs were complete. The Kravesh ship had power and life support again. Captain Zelmar met Lisa at the airlock. You saved our lives today, he said. After everything our people did to yours, you still came to help us. I do not understand why. Because that's who humans are, Lisa replied. We're capable of terrible things when you threaten our families. We proved that during the war. But we're also capable of mercy and compassion. We proved that today. The galaxy fears you now, Zelmar said. They call you the species that draws the line. The ones who fight without rules. Let them fear us, Lisa said. Fear keeps our people safe. But fear is not the only thing we want to be known for. We want to be known as the species that fights fiercely when attacked, but shows mercy to those who deserve it. The Vigilance undocked from the Kravesh vessel and watched as it limped away toward Kravesh space. Lisa stood on her bridge and thought about the path humanity had taken over the past 2 years. They had gone from being victims to being victors. From being dismissed by the Galactic Council to being permanent members with a Security Council seat. From being seen as weak prey to being feared as dangerous predators, but they were still human. Still capable of kindness and compassion even after everything they had been through. Captain, message coming in from the Kravesh ship, Jake said. Put it through. Captain Zelmar's face appeared on screen. Captain Grant, I will tell everyone about what you did today. I will tell them that the humans could have left us to die but chose to help instead. Perhaps in time our peoples can move beyond what happened. Perhaps we can find peace not based on fear but on mutual respect. Perhaps, Lisa agreed. But understand this. If your military ever threatens humans again, we will respond exactly as we did before. The line still stands. The weapons are still ready. We hope we never have to use them again, but we will if we must. I understand, Zelmar said, and I hope we have learned our lesson well enough that you never need to. After the communication ended, Lisa sat in her command chair and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there were the colonies humanity was rebuilding, Earth itself safe behind the line, and beyond that, the rest of the galaxy still coming to terms with what humanity had proven itself capable of. Admiral Connor Blake had been right to draw the line. Humanity needed that boundary, that clear statement of where civilization ended and survival instincts began. But Lisa hoped that today proved something else too. That humanity could be fierce defenders and compassionate helpers. That they could show teeth to their enemies and mercy to those who needed it. That they were more than just the weapons they wielded or the tactics they employed. Lieutenant Jake Morrison approached her. "That was a good thing we did today, Captain." "Yes, it was," Lisa agreed. "The Kravesh needed to see that we're not just monsters with advanced weapons. We're people who will defend ourselves with everything we have, but who will also help those in need." "Do you think the war changed us permanently?" Jake asked. "Admiral Blake worries about that. About whether we can ever go back to being the peaceful species we were before Meridian 7. Lisa thought about the question carefully. "I don't think we can go back. The galaxy has seen what we're capable of when threatened. We've seen it too. But maybe we don't need to go back. Maybe we need to move forward as something new, a species that's both feared and respected. One that shows mercy when possible but fights without mercy when necessary." She stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at human space. "The line represents both things. It's a warning to anyone who would threaten us. But it's also a promise to our own people that we'll never let another Meridian 7 happen. We'll never be helpless victims again." Jake nodded. "What do you think the future holds for humanity?" "I think we'll continue to grow and expand. I think we'll make allies among the species that respect strength and honor. And I think we'll be left alone by those who remember what happened to the Kravesh." Lisa smiled slightly. "We're not conquerors. We never wanted to be feared. But if being feared keeps our people safe, then we'll accept that burden." The Vigilance continued its patrol along the line. Behind them was human civilization, thriving and growing. Ahead was the rest of the galaxy, vast and full of species that had learned a valuable lesson. Humanity had arrived among the stars not as conquerors or victims, but as survivors. They had proven they could adapt, innovate, and overcome any threat through